to this community meeting with the Join organization.
Panthers are here. Panthers are here. For uptown. Okay. We come here with our hearts open. You cats to supervise us, where we can be of help to you. What do you want in your community? What do you want here? Are you afraid of you want to take berets off, man, or what?
There were a lot of suspicions about the Black Panthers that they were gun-carrying terrorists.
It was a scenario that I had never been in before. I see some guys with Confederate flag patches. I was a little concerned.
The thing we got to deal with is concept of poverty, man. We got to reach the color thing. See,
the building's not fit for dogs to live in, but humans having to pay $144 a month for things. They sell the building to new ownership. What we need is understanding among the people, coalition between the people to stick together and take them owners and put them over here in the lake somewhere.
Right on. Once you realize, man, that your house is funky with rats and roaches, same way a black dude's house is, once you realize that your brothers have been brutalized by the cops, the same way the west side and south side is, once you realize that you are paying taxes for the cops to whoop your ass, you're paying them, and you're paying them to kill you, and deal from there. The same things happen on the south
Bob
side.
Lee turned out to be quite an organizer. And he says, yeah, my name is Bobby Lee, but my real name is Robert E. Lee. And we all laughed. We said, you got to be kidding me.
Who's here that want to see this thing move? Yeah, man. Right on. But the first thing we talk about now is how we're going to organize. Where are we going to organize?
And, we're all going to get run out of here eventually.
That was a good meeting. It was. It got everybody riled up.
Welcome to another edition of Nick and CJ Weekends. I'm one of your hosts. I'm CJ. What's up, Nick?
What's poppin', ladies and gentlemen? Welcome, Nick and CJ Weekends. This is gonna be a great show. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot to talk about. Matt Taibbi lit the internet on fire the last few days, and couldn't think of a better time to have Jimmy on. Jimmy, one of my favorite people to have on the guest. Very easy. You just toss up stuff to Jimmy, and it's always a fun time. But CJ, I'll pass it to you before we.
Yes, and I agree. It's like this was set up so perfectly. The everything just all the planets aligned because before the Twitter, we had the railroad vote that the squad just sold workers out. Now you can't be a strike breaker and a socialist. Like that's so weird, right? Oh. So we already had that, and then of course Matt dropped these tweets last night or yesterday that we're gonna cover. But first, let's quickly go through the announcements so we can get right to our special guests. Make sure you join our Substack. I can't imagine you're watching this on replay and you're not here live, but if you're watching this on replay and you want to know when we go live so that you could have saw this live, join our Substack. Also, just to announce, this is going to be the launch of our Discord next week. We have some moderators. So anyone who's part of our Substack will be sent the link to our Discord, which launches sometime this upcoming week. So that's another good reason to join our Substack. Also, like the stream. Jimmy is here in the back, and we're going to be getting to him in just a moment. But before we do that, like the stream, we're at 333 viewers. So let's make sure we're very close with that. The other thing is we are trying to reach 30,000. It was a tall task, but we're actually getting very close. So hashtag RBN to 30,000.
Make sure you sub your bell. Make sure you check your bell because I got some bullshit to show you guys in terms of how they're suppressing RBN. And as I post this evidence of YouTube suppressing us, I got people reach out to me that say they've been unsubscribed. They haven't gotten notification and on live stream for a while. We got to figure this shit out, man. It's devastating. So make sure you guys check if you still subbed. God knows how many subs RBN should have right now. God knows. Go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, and a lot of people say that our subs don't match our views. Like it seems like
we
if
get
it would
more views
match,
than
it would be
Bing
a lot higher. So people know, at least they're still watching, but it is something just to remind you to check your subs. There we go. Thank you for that. Love our community. We have a lot to talk about, so I don't know how much we're going to be able to get to the chat. We will when we can. Let's hit that like button. Let's get to 350
to the end. That's what I'm thinking.
All right. All right. I think I'll pass it back to you. Let's bring on our special guest if you're ready, unless you had any other announcements.
Yeah, just give us a thumbs up when you're ready, Jimmy. You all know our guest, friend of RBN. Once again, very fun to talk to Jimmy. It's very similar to Mitzi, where it's just easy to rant with Jimmy on these topics. So welcome to RBN once again, Jimmy DORE.
Boy, I'm so glad that I voted to save democracy. So then the Democrats could immediately institute fascism and steal away the right of workers to organize and strike for to get their needs met. Because you know why they had to do this? They had to do that because the strike would have worked. The strike would have been successful immediately. And so the Democrats, led by Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer, and supported by the squad, except for one of them, all voted to take the right to organize away from workers who were about to win a huge labor strike, right? They were just about, and what would that do? That would set the tone for the entire goddamn country. And so that's why they can't have this happen. They have to intervene. So so this idea that January 6th, they stole our democracy, a bunch of guys in pajama bottoms and buffalo helmets, didn't even have a fucking gun or a plan or know what to do. Your democracy was stolen from you decades ago, you assholes. And what are you going to get fucking upset about that? What are you going to get upset about this? Today, I go on Twitter, I see Ryan Grimm defending that shit. Ryan Grimm from The Intercept defending it, saying this is what the unions wanted them to do. And so that's why the Democrats did it. What a fucking gaslighting piece of shit, anti-worker, cocksucking right-winger that fucking guy is. That is unbelievable that right out in public they do it. Just like the Democrats did fascism right in your fucking face and screwed over workers right in your face. The journalists do the same shit. They gaslight you in favor of their access to fucking politicians. It is unbelievable. Of course that guy works with the Young Turks. Of course he takes a check from 3 billionaires. Of fucking course. And so here we are again, left with our complete Democratic. I thought, 6 years ago when Bernie Sanders ran for president the first time, we all decided we were done with the Democratic Party, except Bernie went right back in and he never made them pay a price for cheating us. And they cheated us. They didn't cheat him. They cheated the progressive movement. And just like Barack Obama, Bernie Sanders immediately disbanded his fucking movement. There is no movement. They have a rally in New York City to kick off his fucking campaign, and they get people like AOC up there saying foreign policy is our domestic policy, stealing a fucking line right out of Pelosi's fucking campaign. And then of course they didn't mean a goddamn thing, and there was no movement, because where is that movement now? Bernie Sanders has asked his movement to do fucking nothing, just like AOC has asked her 13 million Twitter followers to do absolutely fucking nothing. They will never oppose the oligarchy. They will never oppose Joe Biden and his fucking Wall Street buddies. And this is what we're left with. People still apologizing for them, still being angry at YouTube hosts instead of the people with fucking power. When are people going to come together, realize this is a goddamn class war? If you think you really want to argue about bathrooms, or do you want to argue about what the fuck they just did to the goddamn rail workers, and what they did to the railroad workers, they did to all fucking workers, because unions are on the march right now. Look at Starbucks. Look what Christian Smalls did with Trumpers and fucking Staten Island and Amazon. So the people are waking up, and the Democrats had to stop their momentum. This is where we are. And if you fucking still vote blue after this, you are my oppressor.
Yeah, way to start off strong, Jimmy. And a lot of these
Nick, you have echo, Nick. You might.
Is that me?
I don't know which. Yeah, your mic has echo when Jimmy came in, but he doesn't have any echo.
Let's see. Check audio. Check.
There we go. It is crystal clear. No problem.
Yeah, yeah. So great start, Jimmy. Because what a lot of these Bernie people, what they have become is essentially Democrats. I was not a Democrat, and a lot of people who criticize RBN, they always fail to leave out. I quit my job and I canvassed for over 3 states, knocked on thousands of doors for Bernie Sanders. Not many people have done more for the Bernie Sanders movement than I did. And that's just a fact. That's a fact. And guys, I'm telling you guys right now, Jimmy got me fired up too. I did not sign up for this. I admit I was tricked. I thought that we was organizing a movement to resist the two-party duopoly. We were just using the strategy of using the Democratic Party infrastructure, but that was not their goal. Their goal was to become Democratic Party insiders. So as someone who was a part of that movement, I'm done. Like voting for NATO, voting to bust unions, voting for Nancy Pelosi and Hakeem Jeffries, Jimmy. That was never part of the deal.
They're never going to do. And I mean, it is just stunning what has happened. But what's more stunning is the people who used to be part of the Bernie movement, like you and me, but the other people, like TYT, like Kyle Kalinske and Rachel, and all those people who were on board with Bernie Sanders are now just like Bernie Sanders, sucking the cock of the oligarchy and propping up war pigs. That's what they are. Bernie Sanders and the squad are fucking war pigs. Okay, and we have to call them war pigs. Bernie is a war pig, and when you vote for them, you're voting for war fucking pigs. You should be opposing them. If you're a war pig, you are not. You're the opposite of a goddamn progressive. So what happened to the rest of the people? All of a sudden, now I stayed consistent. You know, somebody put a video together showing how Humanist Report and Jordan Sheridan, how they completely flipped the script on themselves. How they used to sound like us, and now they sound like Cenk Uygur and David Sirota and Ryan Grimm, making apologies for politicians constantly and shaming activists. So what they do is they shit on activists, like when you did your general strike summit, they shit on that. Like when we did force the vote, they shit on that. It's the craziest fucking thing I've ever seen. Well, it's not crazy once you know what's going on. These people are in the establishment. They are the establishment. You don't take checks from billionaires and you don't get $24 million from right wingers, and then you're a fucking lefty progressive. So, and Bernie Sanders completely folded his organization, his movement, into a pro-war, anti-worker party. And he makes no excuses for it. In fact, what he does is when people show up to protest him about his war piggery, he shames them and smears activists, peace activists. Bernie Sanders smears peace activists and asks them who's paying them. Bernie Sanders says that. By the way, he stopped saying millionaires and billionaires. Isn't that weird? He stopped saying millionaires and billionaires? Because Joe Biden had, 100,000 billionaires giving him fucking money, and that's his good friend. Where is Bernie Sanders' criticism of Joe Biden right now? It is non-existent. Bernie Sanders is a war pig who is now turned into the enemy of fucking workers because he won't stand up against this goddamn party that he keeps funneling revolutionary energy into it. And just like Shama Sawant says, the road for progressives inside the Democratic Party leads to a goddamn graveyard. Bernie Sanders knows that. Everybody at TYT knows that. Kyle Kalinske knows. All those fucking people know that. But they're going to go along because they are nutless, gutless fucking wonders, and they're the farthest thing from revolutionaries, and that's what we need right now. They don't even understand what revolution is. They have no idea. They are incrementalists. We thought we were done with incrementalism in 2016, and now they hail it as being the most grown-up thing in the world you can do. It's unbelievable. These people don't have the balls to stand up against big pharma or criminals like fucking Fauci. They never had the balls to stand up against that shit. I did it. Turns out I was 100% fucking right, just like I was right about fucking Russiagate and Syria and now Ukraine. These fucking war pigs are not fucking progressives, and we gotta get out of the goddamn Democratic and Republican Party.
Let me chime in, Nick, really quick. And Jimmy, good to meet you. I think this is our first time on camera. I want to speak to what you said earlier, which was you alluded to the culture war. Like, do we want to talk about culture war? Or do we? And let me get your take on what I think this is. I think now the GOP, this is their political sort of strategy. What they do in order, because this is the ruling class, this is how they work the red arm of it, is that they use the Republican Party to use these, to start these wedge, or whoever starts it, but there's these wedge culture issues in order to separate specifically the white worker from everybody else. That's their intention. So these culture war things that are happening, and then if you notice to who you spoke to, Jimmy, you said TYT, the Majority Report, Sam Cedars, now even Jordan Sheraton, which is crazy, is now leaning heavily into culture war. But what is your thought as the GOP? This is their strategy, because this is the strategy. Now walk with me with this logic, everybody in the audience, is that the newest left thing the GOP uses so that they can separate the white worker from everybody else. And then the reason they do that is because the pop culture starts on the coast and it doesn't reach middle America till later. So, for example, cigarette smoking in California, they thought that was crazy when I went home to visit in Houston. But then, then it travels inland. And then, so this is one of the issues. Defund the police is another one, where it's like these very new or newish or rebranded issues where, and maybe trans could be one of them. Defund the police is another one, where these culture wars, they're trying to fight in order to separate the white worker. I know it is a mouthful, Jimmy. Any part of that, if you want to address or just give your opinion on that. You're muted. He's muted.
Of division. They have the politics of identity politics, and they have the politics of blaming Russia. So, I have a brother who all he cares about is Russia. He thinks Russia is they committed a coup on this country. That's what they'll say. And I'm like, Russia can't even get their good vodka into Trader Joe's. Russia did not do this. The reason why 80% of workers live paycheck to paycheck, half the country can't afford a $500 emergency, and we got people living under every bridge, is because of Vladimir Putin. It's because of the criminal, corrupt motherfuckers that we've had running this country for 40 or 50 years. Your democracy was stolen from you a long time ago, and now so what they have is their corporate media to report every story in a way that divides the country. I was watching a clip from The View yesterday, and they were covering Balenciaga, where those people are grooming little kids for sex stuff. And they immediately took that story and they made it into an anti-Trump story. I'm like, what the fuck does Trump have to do with this? So no matter what the story is, they're going to report it in a way that divides the country. No matter if it's the border crisis, no matter if it's climate change, no matter if it's vaccines, no matter, Trump still wants, he's the one who developed the goddamn vaccine, right, and he still wants credit for it, and they still call him and his followers anti-vaxxers. So no matter what it is, they're going to like Kyle Rittenhouse shot 3 white people. They'll tell you that he shot 3 black people. So no matter how they're going to report this story, no matter what the story is, they're going to report it in a way that divides the country. And so that's all they have left. And that's all and identity politics. And I have to explain to people what I mean when I say identity politics is they put a person from a marginalized group in charge of fixing the problem with no intention of ever fixing it, so you don't talk about it anymore. And my joke that I do in my act is if it was 1860, the Democrats wouldn't be fixing slavery. They'd be bragging about their first transgendered slave owner. So that's where we are right now. That's exactly what they're doing. They're not, if they're not making life better for black and brown people, they're pretending they are. You know what would help black and brown people more than anything? Medicare. How about a living wage? How about ending those wars and investing that money back here? How about getting rid of the fucking industrial prison complex? That's the kind of shit that would help black and brown people. But you want to scream fascist at half the country while you are actually committing fascism, which is what this screwing of the railroad workers was. And everybody came together except one progressive in the House. Everybody came together to be fascists. So when they scream fascist, that's just because they have nothing to offer you to run on. The Democrats aren't going to give you a living wage. They're not going to give you health care. They're not going to end those wars. They're not going to deconstruct the prison complex. They're not going to fucking defund the police. They're not going to do any of that shit. So that's all they have left, and that's exactly right. It is. They don't want you to think about a class war, because that's what this is. They want you to think about a culture war, and that's all they have now. So we have people. We have Pete Buttigieg, right? So Pete Buttigieg, who has two things going for him: that he's gay and that nobody knew anything about him because he fucking doesn't have any accomplishments. The guy couldn't fix a pothole in South Bend, Indiana. They made him head of the fucking transportation. And then in the middle of the biggest supply chain fuck up in them, people can't get their fucking baby formula. And that guy takes a month off fucking work on purpose. And I'm for parental leave for everybody except that motherfucking guy. I'll tell you that. In the middle of really, so when people can't get their fucking baby formula, you're gonna go fucking home, and so you can watch your nanny raise your fucking kid. Anyway, that's all they have now is identity politics and the division and the politics of division. And so that's why the message of my show and my live show is that working people of the same class, left, right, black, white, it doesn't matter. We all have a common enemy, and that's what they don't want you to understand, because once we figure out we have a common enemy, we can do great things like Christian Smalls did in Staten Island, organizing Trumpers against the fucking man, because we all have a common enemy.
Yeah, and to your point on identity politics, it drives me crazy, and I piss a lot of liberals off, and I'm glad, because they actually hurt our communities.
You have a slight echo, Nick.
Yeah, it echoes whenever I talk. When Jimmy's
now you're clear. There you go. Now you're clear.
I don't know why. It's when when I mute Jimmy, it works. But for example, how they bastardize identity politics, they have Karine Jean-Pierre, who apologizes for the United States intervening in her own country. She's Haitian, right? You have Ilhan Omar, who supports the U.S. intervention of Somalia. You have Rashida Tlaib that provide cover for the Zionist Democratic Party. You guys see what neoliberal identity politics gets you? Meanwhile, what we talk about in RBN, we bring a material analysis to it. So, despite being 13% of the population, and I'm sorry, I got you mute. I'm mute here, some Jimmy. Despite us being 13% of the population, we are 40% of the homeless population. I'm talking about Black Americans. So, if you uplift and you end homelessness, that's the best way to address the material needs of Black people. And while doing so, you help the white working class, who is also homeless. The same with Medicare for all. Black people have the highest amount of medical debt in this country. So if you get Medicare for all, you pass that, which is massively popular. There is no more pro-Black policy than that. And not only do you uplift Black people, you then get a rallying cry for the poor white worker that is also selfish, that want to improve their condition while uplifting the Black community as well. So the establishment, knowing this, demonize anyone who want to make a connection with people, even they had disagreements. Like we now Jimmy Dore, people mouth, oh my God, you have a Jimmy Dore on. We had Glenn Greenwald on. Oh my God, you had Glenn Greenwald on. How dare
divided?
Jimmy.
That's how they keep us divided. That's right. They don't want to talk about the policy. What policy that Jimmy Dore pushes don't you like? There isn't one. I'm for Medicare.
I can list a ton.
I can list a ton of them. Cenk Uygur endorsed a fucking Republican running for goddamn mayor, and then he gets on Twitter and starts yelling about right wingers. It's unbelievable. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. So obviously, and you admit this as well, we don't agree on everything, right? But is it Jimmy Dore calling us Putin puppets because we speak now on the Ukraine war? Is it Jimmy Dore calling us grifters because we have a General Strike Summit? Is it Jimmy Dore that's smearing the March for Medicare for All? He spoke at it. He's not getting in our way. If you guys see, we call all the people who get in our way. At what point is Jimmy, is Glenn, is any of the people you ever seen on this show get in the way of our ass? Meanwhile, TYT is straight up producing propaganda, and that's okay apparently. People literally okay with funding the military-industrial complex. People apologizing for. I literally seen progressive Jimmy do apologize for U.S. intervention in Haiti, but that's okay. But if we have a different take on the culture war issue or anything insignificant, then we're supposed to ignore each other. We're supposed to hate each other. I reject that. If you came out with some pro-war bullshit, then yeah, we'd be calling you out. But it's usually the boutique left, the NATO left that is doing that. But CJ, Jimmy, I'll pass it to you guys if you have anything you want to add to that.
No, absolutely. But I do want to lean into another part that Jimmy that you alluded to, because this is something I have been curious about. So I was working on a segment where I was covering, because I was trying to find the genesis of when it went from good to bad for you with them. Like when, because I found footage of you and Jake pleasantly having conversations. I found all of this footage. I found you and Jordan, and to see the dynamic now, like just recently, Jordan tweeted about something about you said and tried to get people riled up. I just don't understand. Besides personality, or maybe it's only personality, do you think it has something to do with you going from, I'm willing to support progressive Democrats to now I'm not supporting any Democrat at all? Do you think it has anything involved with they're sheepdog, or they're shielding for the Democratic Party, and you are opposite? And because you're one of the more popular podcasters on the left who absolutely will not support the Democratic Party, you are a major target. Do you hear any truth in that part of it?
And what happened to the Bernie Sanders left? Well, Bernie Sanders folded them back into the Democratic Party, and they followed. That's what happened to the squad too. The squad doesn't have a leader, so they look to Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders is going to suck Joe Biden's cock until the grave, and so they go right along with them. And so the reason why I didn't change is those videos that we were talking about earlier, that Joe put together, shows that I've stayed consistent, and my critics have all changed. They were on board with me. We're done with this incrementalism. We're done with the two-party duopoly. They're both pro-war, anti-worker parties. And in 2016, Chuck Schumer, there's a famous video I play on my show all the time of him saying it doesn't matter if we lose blue-collar workers in Pennsylvania, because for every blue-collar worker we lose, we're going to get a white-collar worker in the suburbs in Michigan and Wisconsin and Ohio. And of course that didn't happen, and they lost the presidency to a game show host. And so there is no this idea that there's somebody represents the working class. That's why people were desperate enough to vote for a clown like Donald Trump in the first place, because they've already voted for Joe Biden for 45 years, and he locked up half the fucking country, and he made it illegal for you to get relief in bankruptcy for the other half of the country from their medical debt or their student loan debt. So they know what the fuck they've got. They voted for Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama, and their lives got worse. Whose lives? Black and brown people's lives got worse. And Trump only managed to deport half as many Hispanics as Barack Obama did in his first term. So this idea that voting for Democrats is a vote for the minorities is bullshit. They use that identity politics to shame you into voting for them, but the shame is all on them. They just revealed that they are fascists, and that's not hyperbole. That's the fucking definition of fascism. The government intervening for a fucking corporation to screw the citizen. That's exactly what Mussolini said fascism is, and that's what the Democratic Party is. So then don't ever let them call somebody else. That's a big buzzword now. We have to your first order of business is to fight fascists. Well, then you should be fighting the Democratic Party, because they're the fascist party that's in control right now.
Yeah, I had a debate with Destiny. He was debating an absurd premise where he was debating me whether the United States is a fascist country or not. And of course he believed that Russia is a fascist country. And I broke it down, and that's the last mistake ever made on how the United States is fascist, right? So I don't call ordinary people fascists, right? I think it's kind of a waste of time. But when you look at our ruling class, the policies that they implement, and now with the most recent story pivot, I'm going to ask you about this. One key tenet of fascism is the collusion in the corporation and government. It's a harsh regimentation of society that imposes the law that punishes people who are enemies of the state. That is literally what they're doing to Julian Assange. That is what they've been caught doing to protesters. When you look at the George Floyd protesters, a lot of people were spied on, and Facebook gave the police information of people who were protesting them. So let me sum that up. Big tech gave names, information to the government, to the people who are protesting said government. And people don't think we're fascists, and then they vote for a said fascist party, and then they want to pretend they have the moral high ground here, that they are anti-fascist. Now, with that said, I want to dive into the story because it's something I mentioned quite some time. I want to ask you about the massive leaks on Twitter, which pretty much sums up what we already know. what we knew in terms of social media colluding with the Democratic Party to censor people that don't like, censor stories that don't like. And I cannot emphasize enough. I'll pass it to you, Jimmy. I want to get your thoughts on this. This is such an egregious act. This is such an egregious act. You had the White House press secretary under Donald Trump who had her Twitter pulled down because of the Hunter Biden story. And now it was revealed that Twitter was taking hints from the Biden administration. I'm going to dive into some receipts, but Jimmy, do you have any initial takes before I dive in and show you guys exactly what we're talking about?
Well, my initial take is this. So people have been texting me and saying, boy, this really is bad for the Democrats. This really looks bad for the Democrats that they were censoring their political opponents on social media. This really looks bad that they were censoring. And I'm like, but what do you mean looks bad? I mean, what price are they? They're not going to have to. You saw what Sam Harris said. They're proud of it. They brag that they committed a conspiracy to censor their political enemies because they feel like they're fighting Hitler. And if you're fighting Hitler, everything's okay. So they wear this as a badge of honor. Of course, right now you got Mark Ruffalo is tweeting that Twitter better start censoring. And if they don't, we should make it a public utility. So then the government can start censoring.
What?
And I'm like, you know what? I'm like, you want the government to decide what's true and false? The biggest liars in the world, the people who took us to Iraq, the people who are funding Nazis in Ukraine, the people who are occupying Syria and stealing their oil, the people who stayed in Afghanistan, killing those people for 20 years, the people who did Libya, turning it into a failed state, the people who those are the people you want to decide what's missing. That's Mark Ruffalo being a fucking tool of the establishment. He was a big Bernie bro. It's another one of those guys. Bernie Sanders loses his leadership and they fold right back into the shit lib fascism. And that's what that is. They're not embarrassed about censoring. They crave censorship. These people want fucking right-wing authoritarianism and they think they're progressives. These people are fucking fascists who've been tricked into thinking that freedom of speech equals hate speech. And so they go, well, if you're a free speech absolutist, you're a white supremacist racist because you don't want to stop hate speech against black people or gay people. And it's like, no. The people who are always censored are the marginalized groups. You never censor the establishment narrative. You always censor the marginalized groups. And so the people who have always been marginalized have been minority groups. Do you think if Malcolm X was alive today or Martin Luther King, you think he would be allowed on fucking Facebook? And they would say he's inciting violence and they would get rid of them immediately. So this idea that censorship, it protects minorities is fucking bullshit.
CJ, anything you want to add? And then I'm gonna dive into some receipts, and I'll give you guys reaction. Go ahead, CJ.
No, I'm curious to hear the receipts. Go ahead.
Okay, let's dive into it. So, this is regarding Hunter Biden. We know there was a massive media cover-up, and I think people. I was about to say they're gonna be held accountable, but I guess I'm being too optimistic. There's gonna be no price to pay for this. Now that I catch myself, because this is the mainstream media constantly lying about the Hunter Biden story. Now, this for CNN, and this was repeated as fact so many different times. And you had CIA, which we know is embedded in our media. They would say, CNN would say, oh my God, we got the CIA analysts on. And people would think they're getting neutral news. So look at this former director of national intelligence, James Clapper. He said, to me, this is just a classic textbook Soviet-Russian tradecraft at war. Pretty much saying the Hunter Biden laptop was fake. Glenn Greenwald, he has a lot to say about the story because I don't know if you guys remember, he quit The Intercept because The Intercept censored him on this story. They were claiming it was Russian disinformation, it was hacked as well. Now, this is very relevant because when you see the Twitter leaks, which we'll probably go over it when we have more time later, you see this conversation between the Twitter executives when they knew they was wrong. They knew that this Hunter Biden laptop story didn't come from a hack, and they used that lie that comes from the national intelligence agencies in order to justify banning the story, because then they say, oh, well, it's a hacked story, so it goes against our hacked information policy. Now, this is what we all know. We covered this before. There's the receipt where even CBS admit copy of Hunter Biden laptop data appears genuine. independent experts find. So now we have questions, and we had some questions for quite some time. So we know that Twitter played a role in suppressing the story, but the question always been how? Like, what mechanisms was used to censor this? Now, it was shown that, yeah, for one, the Biden administration did directly have ties to this story. Not only that, this is the big corruption story that I see regarding this. And there's a coordinated effort coming from progressives, you know, the same Bernie people. I'm going to show you guys some receipts here soon, where they're trying to pretend that this is a big nothing burger. I remember clearly when Bernie Sanders ran, we used to call out money in politics, and we used to call out pay-to-play corruption. We used to call quid pro quo politics. Now that this corruption is being exposed, people are pretending it's not a big deal. So you had this Twitter executive, as exposed by the leaks, Vijaya God. She played a key role in suppressing the October 2020 Hunter Biden laptop story. And then she was later appointed by the Biden administration to an advisory role. Do you guys see how that's directly connected? So she censored the Hunter Biden laptop story at Twitter so Joe wouldn't get bad press before the election. Then after, Biden made her the advisor of the Department of Homeland Security. And in that role, she worked to fight against misinformation. This is out in the open corruption. And now the progressives, not only do they not care, they are apologizing for it. Now, I'm going to show this last video clip, and I'll pass it to you guys, Jimmy and CJ, for reactions. This is a video from the debate where Biden said, without any hesitancy in his voice, that the Hunter Biden laptop story was fake. So you have Biden working in collusion with the government because they knew what they was telling Twitter. They had Reddit. Pretty much all the big social media websites was censoring this story. Biden knew that, so he came out and lied to justify. So let's play this clip and I'll give you guys a reaction to this.
50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is a Russian plant. They have said that this has all the 5 former heads of the CIA, both parties, say what he's saying is a bunch of garbage.
This is classic Trump. We have 4 days left, and all of a sudden there's a laptop. There's overwhelming evidence that from the intelligence community that the Russians are engaged.
I still think that the stories from the fall about your son Hunter were Russian disinformation and a smear campaign, like you said.
Yes. I know you'd ask it. I have no response. Another smear campaign. It's the last-ditch effort in this desperate campaign to smear me and my family. The vast majority of the intelligence people have come out and said there's no basis at all.
Oh, there you go. Is it me?
I'm sorry. Let me
so say all of that. I was like, wait a minute, my headset off. Go ahead,
mine might be acting up sometimes. So let's take this. We can take this part with a grain of salt because I dive in. This does have a little bit of conservative bias in it, but there's still a lot of truth in here. It said 1 in 6 Biden voters would have changed their mind if they had known the full story. And this is regarding the corruption between the Hunter Biden laptop. So this was definitely a coordinated effort by the media and big tech to influence the election. And Biden, knowing that, went out and continued to spread this lie. So I want to get Jimmy, I want to get CJ in here. Any initial reactions on how the media colluded to censor the story and how, despite them pushing Russiagate, they are the number one people who interfere and shape elections. So Jimmy, CJ, any take that you guys have on this?
Yeah, I'll let Jimmy go first and then I'll go.
It's just again, I just keep coming back to this saying Chris Hedges when he said that they lie, cheat, and steal now, and they do it right out in the open. And so they're censoring accurate information for a political end. And they're pretending like every dictator, they pretend they're doing it to protect you. All right. And so the Democrats, as they scream, we're fighting fascism, are using fascism to fight fascism. And so, just as Nietzsche said, don't become a monster. While you're fighting monsters, make sure you don't become a monster. Well, the Democratic Party and people who vote Democrat are now supporting monsters, right? They are the fascists. They are the censorious. They are the ones who are spreading not only misinformation, but disinformation on purpose. And they're smearing and suppressing actual information, accurate information. So this idea that somehow the Democrats are on the good side, right side of history, or that they're the good guys, I thought we were all over that idea 7 fucking years ago. And here we are back again, having to litigate this over and over and over with people who used to stand shoulder to shoulder with us against this kind of corporate corruption.
That's what I was. CJ, I give you your thoughts on this, and I'm gonna show you guys the media reactions to this, the liberal reaction, which is gonna be funny. But CJ, any thoughts on what I shared thus far?
Yeah, no, just to piggyback off what Jimmy was saying, and think about all the things, because they're boasting now about, Democrats are, that is, oh, we got young voters that come out and vote, like as if it was the Democrats that got it and not the lies. Just think about how the Democrats won or staved off a red wave. Student loan debt, didn't they lie about that? They set that up to fail. Then we had the pardons that didn't take anybody out of prison. That was a lie. The railroad tentative deal meant to push the strike breaking past the midterm so it wouldn't affect. And then you already know the tons of war propaganda. I just wanted to make that point that Democrats are using just outright lies that are falling apart right after the election. Go ahead, Nick.
Yeah, so the last part of the story, and then we can talk about the railroad strike a little bit before we get Jimmy out here. I want to show you guys, the funniest thing is, Jimmy, you talk about all the time, these liberal goons in the media, Glenn does as well, who are obsessed with censorship because they are Democratic Party operatives. They're not journalists. They think they're journalists. What they do on every single story, me and Glenn was talking about this, every story, they just put a Democratic Party spin on it, and then they call it journalism. They repeat State Department talking points on war, and they have a CIA spook that feed them information, and then they say they're doing journalism. So, hold on, let me give you in, Jimmy.
You play in that clip you played. There's Joe Biden quoting the head of the CIA. Like, as a Democrat, that's not supposed to be your flex. You're supposed to pretend to not trust the CIA. You're supposed to pretend, but the mask is off now, right? And so now everybody, Joe Biden is more of a right winger than Donald Trump. Certainly when it comes to the military-industrial complex, certainly when it comes to screwing over black and brown people and putting them in fucking prison. Joe Biden, the fact, and they found the one guy who was possibly the bigger liar than Donald Trump, which is Joe Biden. If you know anything about Joe Biden, he had to drop out of the presidency because he was such a big fucking liar in the 80s. I grew up seeing this guy lie on television. He said he was in the top of his class. He was the most outstanding student. He graduated with 3 degrees. He wasn't in the top of his class. He was in the bottom of his class. He wasn't voted the outstanding student. He didn't have 3 degrees. He even fucking made up he went to a college he never went to. And now he's running around telling people his kid died in Iraq over and over. His kid didn't die in Iraq. He just keeps and that's why the Washington Post stopped having we're going to keep track of lies. They only kept track of Donald Trump's lies. They're not and so why is this? So what is it about Donald Trump that they hate? As Aaron Matei says, they hate that he puts an ugly face on empire. Yes. And so when you got a guy who says grab him by the pussy and he's an obvious fucking used car salesman, he's bad to sell empire with. He wants to sell the vaccine. They won't let him. They can sell more vaccines with Demented Joe. And so they ostracize him. They don't want him part of the vaccine thing, even though he developed it and he wants credit for it. So that's why they hate Donald Trump. It's not because he legislated any differently than they did. His biggest accomplishment wasn't giving people health care. His biggest accomplishment wasn't ending the wars. His biggest accomplishment wasn't the living wage. He didn't even build build the wall, which, by the way, Joe Biden is finishing in Arizona. What he did was he gave a tax cut to millionaires and billionaires, just like they all did. So why do they hate him? And that's exactly why. Because every once in a while, not only would he tell he would tell an accidental truth. What's that, Jimmy? Like when they go, hey, why are you leaving troops in Syria? And Donald Trump would go, for the oil. They're like, you can't say that. That's not what. Yeah. They're like, no, it's for the oil. We're taking the oil. It's our oil. And then they're like, get him out of here. We got to get this guy out of here. The president of the United States is telling the truth about our foreign policy. Get that fucking guy out of here. Call him a Russian. Call him a white supremacist. Call him any fucking thing. Put the FBI in his closet. You got to get this fucking guy out of there because he just told everybody the point of our fucking foreign policy is to rape poor brown countries and steal their natural resources.
Yes. Now I remember when calling out the intelligence communities that we mentioned earlier, make sure you're a leftist. Now I do so. They say, "Oh, look at Nick. He's a right-wing Putin apologist grifter." That's what they call you now if you don't believe whatever the intelligence community say. And CJ, what do I say on this show? As someone who analyzes foreign policy, the best advice I have for you guys: whatever the CIA says, whatever the Pentagon say, assume it's not true until proven with hard, overwhelming evidence. That has served me, and I'm sure Jimmy, really well throughout our time as commentators. Now, I'm going to show you guys, back to the original point, the media reaction because these little authoritarians that call themselves reporters, the Democratic Party stick offense, they are now seeing the power that they have on the giant platform, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as well, start to deteriorate. Twitter as well, because you got Elon Musk, who's a partisan billionaire who wants to see the Democratic Party brought to their knees. So he's doing a good thing to challenge the Democrats, right? Which is good. I take it, right? So they are melting down. So let me get into the receipts. I think I prefaced this, and I had quite a few funny ones for you guys. I'm gonna share these, and I'll give you guys a reaction. This receipt right here is look at the date here, December 3rd. This is how the mainstream media, and I looked at CNN, I looked at MSNBC this morning. I don't know what the update is now because that was like a few hours ago, but their headline, avoiding this story at all costs. And they are ignoring the direct quid pro quo corruption I exposed earlier. We had what was her name? Vijay, something like that. She censored for Twitter, and then she got a buy-in job, which is corruption. And the fact that you guys meddled in the election, you guys banned reporters, people literally on Trump's team over a story that was true, and it showed throughout the leaks that you guys lied about why you did it. So now the media is trying to pretend that this story is all about Hunter Biden's dick. That is what they were trying their best to deflect to that. So this headline says, "No, you do not have the constitutional right to post Hunter Biden's dick pic on Twitter." Completely ignoring the context. This is the middle of the election. Twitter's worked with the Biden administration to lie about this and delegitimize the New York Post's reporting. And then the Biden administration and his media allies will come out and quote said Twitter policy as a reason why it's disinformation. So now this is Dan Cohen. This is the headlines I was looking for. This is New York Times. After fanning COVID fears, China must try to ally them. Then you had the Washington Post with a Ukraine story here. So they're trying their best to avoid talking about this bombshell leaks. And I also saw these people who are quote unquote journalists who work at corporate news, who are quote unquote independently minded. They was repeating this line ad nauseum, saying that Matt Taibbi is doing PR for the richest men.
Yeah.
He's doing PR for the billionaires. And I'm pulling this up because if you Google PR, world's richest man, this guy put a compilation of them together. You see all these blue shit libs on Twitter repeating that imagine volunteering to do the online PR work for the world's richest man on Friday night. This comes from Mehdi Hassan. He reports on MSNBC trying to play the moral high ground, say, oh, look at Matt Taibbi doing propaganda for the rich. And you see there's so many of these blue check liberals. This is Gritty calling them out as well. Ben Collins is one of those guys who was having a massive meltdown. This guy said, imagine throwing it all away, talking about Matt Taibbi's reputation. And Matt Taibbi spent his entire career calling out the media establishment regarding Russiagate, regarding war. So I don't even know what you're talking about here. But
I think that's Jimmy wanted to chime in.
Oh, yeah,
Go ahead, Jimmy.
unmute it, TJ, if you don't mind. Go ahead.
No, but I forgot what I wanted to say. But again, it's this magic sleight of hand where people like Mehdi Hassan, who spent his entire life, a professional career, sucking the cock of corporate billionaires, and then he gets to some and lying at their behest and smearing actual journalists like Cy Hirsch and people like that, which is what Mehdi Hassan does. By the way, he couldn't be more anti-gay, just like Joyanne Reed, and then they have to cover it up. Just like when Joe Biden got incredibly accused of rape, they had to pretend that #MeToo didn't mean what it meant, and so it is quite a sleight of hand when Matt Taibbi, it's again, they don't talk about that Matt Taibbi is telling the truth. They talk about the truth is going to hurt my political side, and so journalists shouldn't tell that truth. And so that's why all my friends in Hollywood ended up hating me, because I wouldn't stop telling the truth about Hillary Clinton, even if they thought it was going to help Donald Trump. And I'm like, well, she should have thought about that when she did the Pied Piper theory and she wanted to run against Donald Trump, and she had her friends in the media elevate Donald Trump. Nobody ever talks about any of that, right? And she was the one who propped them up. They were the one that cheated Bernie, and so maybe they'll really regret it next time. Well, that's not how things work in Hollywood. That's not how things work in the world. That doesn't matter. You have to go along with the corruption of the establishment, just like Bernie Sanders does and Elizabeth Warren and the squad does. And if you don't go along with that, then you're a bad person and you're a right-winger. And I'm sorry, journalists are supposed to tell the truth. Matt Taibbi's got a hot story about corruption at the highest levels, about the government colluding with private corporations to censor American citizens illegally against the First Amendment. That's a huge story, and the fact that they don't want to talk about it just shows the level of corruption in our country. You know, I will always talk about how the people who run this country, they all share the same interests, and they're the ones doing this to us, and they're the ones who are pulling the strings. And people always go, "Oh, really, Jimmy? Well, where's the room that they all get together, all these rich people, and have meetings?" I go, "It's called a session of fucking Congress, you moron. What do you think that whose bidding do you think they were doing yesterday when they voted to fuck over railroad workers and not even give them sick days? One of the most profitable companies in the history of the world, these railroad companies making tens of billions of dollars a year, can't afford to give people sick. That's called fucking fascism right there. That's a meeting of the people's representatives. They represent a handful of billionaires. They get together. It's called a session of fucking Congress, you assholes. And if that isn't enough, they have the Bilderbergs, and they have fucking Davos, and then they have the World Economic Forum, and then they have the WHO. These are all fucking billionaire funded cabals that rule our life, and now they're going to give us digital IDs so they can turn off our fucking bank accounts the minute we want to protest, like the truckers in fucking Canada. And now it's coming out that the government had to lie about the truckers, just that they have to lie about fucking everybody. They had to lie about the truckers and say they were violent and racist. And so anybody going against the, I don't know if you've noticed that, anybody who goes against the status quo, the establishment status quo, since Trump, is now a white supremacist and a racist. And I hope that that loses its power pretty soon, because it's bullshit. I've been called a white supremacist racist. I says, because why? Because of my fucking position on COVID. I'm like, what? How could being for the truth about COVID, how could telling the truth about ivermectin be seen as fucking right wing? Is a medicine right wing or left wing? It's the craziest, because that's just like you said at the top of the show. That is all they have left, because both parties are the same. Why do you think the Democratic Party talks about how the Republicans and Trumpers are fascists, and then they take their own money, the Democrats, and give it to them in the primaries? They fund the most right-wing fascist fucking maniacs in the world so they can run against them. Why do they do that? They do that because if they ran against a regular Republican, there's no fucking difference, and everybody knows it. So they have to find somebody who's crazy on social issues, cultural issues to run against, because they're exactly the same when it comes to war, when it comes to workers, when it comes to incarceration, when it comes to drug policy, when it comes to Wall Street, all that shit. They're exactly the same. And when it comes to immigration too, by the way, there's no fucking difference between the Republicans and the Democrats.
Not at all. The only difference is that Biden is more effective at getting these things done. Now, I'll be real quick, and CJ, I know you have something that you want to share to Jimmy, so I'll be real quick to wrap my segment up, and then we get to the rail segment. This is Glenn calling out some more people. You see Chris Hayes once again. They're attacking Matt Taibbi, ignoring the context because it hurts them, pretending that he's doing PR for the richest man. This Chris says, and watch some of the most famous, most powerful, richest men red pill themselves into disaster. So I'm glad that Glenn called him out because these people who do no journalism at all calling out Matt Taibbi for breaking this massive story. So just to speed this up, this is a big Bernie guy. He hang out with a guy with MSNBC contracts. In response to this massive story, instead of talking about the corruption, he's like, "What about Trump?" That's what he said. He said, "Why are you talking about Hunter Biden instead of Trump?" Those are the progressives we have. Now, the last thing I'll share, and I'll pass to you, CJ, before we get Jimmy out of here. This is showing the connection between our entire media apparatus. It is a class war. It's one big club, and you're not part of it. I'll just read a little bit of it, because there are a lot of examples here. But the ABC's News executive producer is married to Susan Rice. The CBS president, David Rhodes, is brother of Ben Rhodes, Obama's national security advisor. ABC News correspondent Claire Shipman is married to White House Press Secretary Jay Carney. Now, just for a second, I could read more, but this is a giant club. They all know each other, and this is what a capitalist dictatorship looks like. So for them, the people who report on MSNBC, the people who watch MSNBC, the people who subscribe to the Washington Post, owned by Jeff Bezos, is saying that Matt Taibbi is doing PR for the billionaire class. How funny is that? So that's my last on this story. CJ, I will pass to you, unless you have any last thoughts on that, Jimmy.
No, it's funny to see people who work for Jeff Bezos try to point the finger at someone else for working first. This is crazy.
It's hilarious. Okay, so Jimmy, I do want to get, or we want to get you to chime in. You kind of already brought up the rail workers and how NATO left sold them out. But I really, yesterday in the stream, when reading through their statement, I really heard, Jimmy, I felt like somebody who was a Marxist wrote this. And let me just bring up two passages in it, and I'm sure you may have seen it or read it yourself, and just to get what you think, because we've been saying we need to come together, forget all the culture war stuff. We need to come together and overturn or overthrow, I should say, the ruling class and put the ownership of all these industries into the workers' hands. So let me read this first segment. It says, Railroad Workers United understands that this fight for justice will continue in the coming months and years. And this is the quote, "The rail carriers are too powerful and are a Scrooge to the national economy," end quote, according to RWU Steering Committee member Paul Lindsay. And here's another quote, and this is the quote I really wanted to zero in on. They need to be taken into public ownership and run in the interest of workers, shippers, passengers, and the nation, not a handful of wealthy stockholders, end quote. And I just wanted to get what you thought of them. This is and this is why to me this is important. This industry is the industry that Congress felt they needed to make legislation for them to curb their striking. And that industry is saying, we need to put this industry into public ownership. That's amazing to me for that to be out there in the open. That's essentially, to me, that can only be accomplished through a general strike. And I have another quote for that. But if you want to chime in here, Jimmy, what are your thoughts on them saying this being put into public ownership?
Well, I think that's quite a statement, don't you? I mean, so now they've seen through the looking glass, right? They understand the system, especially when it just moved against them so swiftly, right? Again, they still can't get clean water to Flint, Michigan, but somehow they moved immediately to take the power of a strike away from railroad workers. And yeah, it does sound like whoever wrote that definitely understands the game that's being played and isn't going to stand up for it anymore. So again, they were going to win. They were going to win this strike. That's why Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and the Democrats had to swoop in and screw the workers because they actually had power. And so how you can continue to vote for a Democratic Party knowing this, it's you don't have a conscience. You're the bad person. You're the fascist. If you keep doing this knowingly, and they are, and people are doing this, and so that's what I think. I still think the railroad workers should strike. I wish they would. They could, and if they did, it would shut down the whole fucking country, and they would win. So the problem is their union leadership willing to do that? I don't think so. So, but if they did, I think they should still strike. And if I was a railroad worker, I would strike if I was them, because they would win.
What do you think, Jimmy, if we reached out to rail workers and had like because I really want to push this. Like if there's somebody I can contact and say, hey, if you have support, like I want to brainstorm with maybe you, Jimmy, and some other people to see if we can have a hand in, because this is what we've been calling for. This is what's needed to get the changes we want. So RBN, and I'm sure you, Jimmy, would love to like just be a part of this. Is history making to me, and it just based off of this release. I'll pass it to you, Nick. Go ahead. You're muted, Nick.
My bad. So one thing I want to add is when you look at the release, they were sure to call out Democrats and Republicans. They said both parties screwed them over. Now, these are the things that got called us a DORE right. That people say. So these are DORE
adjacent. Mike from the Humanist Report called us the DORE adjacent crew.
Oh, the Humanist Report guy, yeah. They called us DORE adjacent because we said we shouldn't vote Republican or Democrat, and the Bernie Sanders and the squad sold us out. And these are workers that are striking that essentially saying the same thing. They would say there's only the online left. You're a part of the online left if you're not a Democrat. Meanwhile, these are workers. We had workers on our General Strike Summit that also called for strikes that was anti-two-party duopoly. The only people that seem to be apologizing for the Democratic Party are it's funny enough, the real irony, are these shut-ins who are only online and only on Twitter, who are obsessed with defending politicians. Meanwhile, real workers, black people that are affected by these policies, they are not out here doing a grim job where they talk shit about behind people behind a block because they're criticizing Democrats, right? So these are workers calling out the two-party duopoly, and that's why I cannot emphasize enough, because there's been messages of RBN and Jimmy in the Jimmy Dore Show, and the progressives who call themselves pro-worker call us right-wing for saying that. So, Jimmy, anything you want to add? I know we probably gotta get Jimmy out here soon. Go ahead.
Shama Sawant tweeted out. So she's a real progressive. She's not one of these fake fucking squad members, right? So she's the real deal. And she's the one who told me 7 years ago on my show that the road for progressives inside the Democratic Party leads to a graveyard. And at first I thought she was crazy. And then, of course, it didn't take long for me to see that she was 100% correct. And she's the one who had the vision, just like the person who wrote that statement from the railroad strikers. And she has a tweet out, and it says, all but one of the squad crossed the picket line, voting with Democrats and Republican majority to break rail workers' strikes. A socialist can't be a strike breaker. This should result in expulsion from the DSA. Failing that, the squad's betrayal of workers becomes DSA's betrayal. No, the DSA is not. The DSA have betrayed you. That's what people don't realize. Not the members of the DSA, but the leadership of the DSA. They're infiltrated. They're just like the squad. They're probably for this fucking strike breaking. Where are the DSA? I don't even know who the head of the DSA is. Why the fuck is that? Because they're not there to make a change. They're there to make sure that all the revolutionary energy that you have and that I have gets funneled back into that pro-war anti-worker party. That's what the fucking leadership of the DSA is there to do. And they're not going to, do you think they're going to kick AOC out of the DSA? Do you think they're going to make her pay a price for this? No, they're going to call me a white supremacist for pointing this out.
One thought on DSA, and then I'll give your final thoughts on this. Final thoughts before we get out here, Jimmy. DSA Madison, probably one of the only good DSA organizations out there. They voted to kick out Jamal Bowman from the group because he's a Zionist. And then they took heat from other DSA organizations because they was upholding their own rules where we stood in solidarity with Palestinians. And they said, oh my God, no, Jamal Bowman, don't worry. They're a rogue DSA. Reel it back in. So now DSA is going to have a bunch of scabs. I think you want to chime in, Jimmy. I'll unmute you here. But now you have a bunch of scabs that DSA is going to endorse. But anyway, I'll get Jimmy. I know Jimmy probably had to run soon. CJ, any last thoughts? I'm gonna get Jimmy here as well before we.
No, I want Jimmy to give him an opportunity to just thank him for joining us, and I really think, Jimmy, you can affect you. This is why I believe you are a target. You're one of the few who can have both conservatives, right wings, Marxists to libertarians all sitting in a room listening to you. That hasn't been done since Bernie. You have taken over the Bernie coalition in my eyes. You've taken over the Bernie pseudo, except for the people at the top of the managerial class, like the people that hate you now, that were your friends. But you've taken over sort of that pseudo coalition. This is why, to me, you're a target and why there's going to be a consistent. But because of that, Jimmy, I think you have a unique ability that if this rail union is serious, like you would have a unique ability to affect and help. I'm not saying like you're, everything, but you would absolutely be able to bring people from different groups together and say, hey, listen, we disagree on these cultural war things, but this rail union is serious. This is it. This is the thing we've been talking about that needs to happen. So that's what I wanted to say in parting, but I'll give you the last words in your parting words.
Well, I haven't spoken with Christian Smalls recently, so I will reach out to him and see what his ideas are on this. And I definitely would do anything I could to help amplify the workers, the railroad workers, and I would help them organize and strike and do whatever they could because they have the power right now. And they have, that's why this happened, because they actually have leverage. And the establishment class, the oligarchy could not let this example be made. It already happened with Starbucks. It already happened with Amazon and Christian Smalls. They couldn't have this because they would win, and they would win like in 2 days. The strike would be over fucking like that. And that's why they can't have this happen. So I'm willing to do and work with anybody, left, right, libertarian, progressive, communist, socialist. I'm willing to work with anybody to help the railroad workers get sick pay and fight against the oligarchy and set an example for the rest of the workers in the country that they actually have power. That's what this is really about. They don't want them to set the example for the rest of the workers that you actually have power. This is what we've been talking about. Workers are waking up from across the country. Amazon, Starbucks, now railroad, where people are waking up and they actually have the power. And this is how you do things, by shutting shit down. And that's what scares them. Just like the truckers, they were effective. That's what scared them. And that's why they had to turn into fascists and authoritarians and lock down their bank accounts. They'll do that to us too, but we got to be ready for it.
Absolutely.
Well,
go ahead, Nick.
We appreciate you for coming on once again. I don't know if you have any plans, CJ, but I think we can just read some super chats and wrap up for today. Let you have any other stories. But I appreciate you joining us. I'll pop you out here, Jimmy. But
we don't need to do any more stories. Yeah, we can just kind of just wrap up here and talk about.
Yeah, I just want to read the super chats. We didn't read them because obviously we only had like an hour, Jimmy. So we read them now. There's a few a super sticker here. Shout out to Cal for the $5 here. That's a solidarity super chat. Thank you for the $2, Sean Brock. He said, prosecute them all. There's only one party, the rich. Well said, my friend. Here's a $20 super chat from Mang. RBN and the Jimmy Dore Show are my last bastions of truth telling. And now, as I said during this interview, I said it many times, because we got a wide variety of audience, every once in a while we get people with Jimmy Dore derangement syndrome as well. They're like, oh my God, why are you having Jimmy Dore on? Why are you guys not calling out Jimmy Dore? Why are you calling out TYT? Because Jimmy's not getting in our way. During the March for America for All, the boutique left, the people you see us calling out was getting in the way of our movement by smearing us. Jimmy gave a speech during the March for America for All. If Jimmy was smearing activists, if he was smearing the healthcare activists, if he smeared the General Strike Summit, yes, you would see us go after him the same way we go after TYT. But from what I see, even with the disagreement that we may have, I see him advocating against war, advocating against the two-party duopoly, and advocating against the worker. Every other disagreement is completely irrelevant as far as I'm concerned. And the people who rather destroy unity among people who get issues right over random YouTube videos, that's unserious to me. We call out and we beef with people who probably the two-party duopoly. For example, Jordan is a Biden voter. right? So that's a hard criticism. TYT repeats propaganda all the time. So that's a hard disagreement. You have so many of the NATO left repeat Zelensky and Ukrainian talking points.
Right.
Does Jimmy do that? You guys see the problem? We acknowledge that we had differences on some takes, but what's the most important things? Are you getting war correct? Are you voting for Democrats or not? Are you advocating for pro-worker policies or not? Or are you fear-mongering over the homeless the way Anna Kasparian did?
Right.
You see, and I keep making this point. I hope it's clear. I know Jimmy may piss you guys off because he said something mean before, but these are important issues, and we want to ally with people who get those issues right. At least that's where I stand, right? But anyway, thank you for the $2.
Before you go to the next one, before you read the next one, because we have 1,200 people, I need to make sure.
Yeah, go
on
ahead.
your way out, because some of you are leaving, but if you're leaving, make sure you like the stream. We are at 921, and we've got up to 1,385 people watching. So we technically should have at least 1,300. So like the stream now on your way out. Let's get to 1,300. We should be able to do that easily with the amount of people still watching. 1,300 is the target. Join our Substack. Before you leave, join our Substack so you get notifications when we go live, when we upload clips.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Later. I'm sorry, I can tell.
No, it's exciting. But so let me finish. So when we upload clips, join. We were at 26,635 when we started. So I don't know what we're at now, but subscribe before you leave. We have 1,200. That should be at least another 500 new subscribers. Subscribe. You will not be disappointed in the content. Join the Substack so that you get notifications. Also, our Substack will be how you get access to our Discord. So if you want to be part of our Discord, join our Substack. Our Discord will be launching this week. Yeah. Our Discord, again, will be launching this week. We have some people as moderators. Join our Substack before you leave and like the stream. This is Nick and CJ Weekends. Go ahead, Nick.
I have a few more super chats that I was able to start. So any other comments you guys want us to read? There are so many comments in this particular live stream. We only read super chats because it's ridiculous.
There's over 5,000 already.
Jesus fucking Christ!
I think before the record was like 3,700, but it's over 5,000.
So we usually read any chat, but we only have to stick to super chat. So keep them coming, guys. Where I leave off right here. Yeah, this is when Jimmy. I told you guys right when I announced it, I said Jimmy is one of the funnest and easiest guests to have on. Cause you can say, "Hey, Jimmy, what do you think about this?" And he go on.
You know how you and I just go right into our interview.
Yeah.
I thought we went hard in ours. You said, "Hey, Jimmy," nigga, watch out. And he went right into it, and he's like, "What?"
Yeah, Jimmy, like, y'all get out of the way. I got
came on fire.
I'm not saying their names, obviously, could that be rude, but there are a lot of guests, and CJ, you probably know too, where you got kind of carry. You're like, come on, man. We got an hour. You hadn't carry Jimmy at all. Like, Jimmy's like the easiest guest to have on. And Mark Kimberly, Misty Winston, Comrade Misty,
Danny,
some other people, super easy to prepare for because all you got to do, hey, Mark Kimberly, what do you think about Ukraine? And then you got a 10-minute rant. The same with Jimmy. So that's why it's always fun to do those shows. Landry with another $100, man. Show some love to Landry in the chat, guys.
Yes.
This second time he donated $100. We appreciate the solidarity and support so much. Because usually we ask for $35, but if you're doing well, you want to help us grow this network, we definitely appreciate the generous super chat here. So let me read it. Thank you, Landrew. Show some love in the chat for Landrew, guys. Some real love for Landrew. If you can, click and subscribe too. But Rail Workers Walkout Strike, Bring It, Jimmy, Nick, and CJ, War Pigs, Bernie and the Squad. Powerful super chat from a powerful ally of the community. Thank you for the $4.99, Muhammad Nassar. And CJ, make sure we ain't missing any new super chats. I just saw.
Okay, let me go through.
New comments.
Yeah, I haven't been looking. Let me go through.
So we don't scam anybody. And I say this caveat every time. If I don't read your super chat, it's not because I skipped it. We don't censor super chats on the channel. It's literally because we missed it. So I just want to say that straight up.
We've had some crazy ones and we still read them. Believe me, like a couple of times we had some stuff, people calling us names and we still read it because that's what we do here.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hell, I have fun with those. I love when they. I love.
Yeah, I
when people
know. I
come
know.
with the song. I have fun.
It's like
Anyway,
a
thanks for-
comedian on stage and a heckler.
Yeah.
It's like so it's okay. Come on, bring it. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
Thanks for 499. Nothing gets me fired up like an RBN Jimmy Dore collab. Solidarity with anti-imperialists, anti-Zionists, pro-worker people around the world. See, that's like, once again, look at that. Look at this comment. Those things are the most important.
Right.
The most important. Whether it's a disagreement on framing, a story that was in news, if we had disagreements on those things, that is not as big of a deal of us having disagreements about the Iron Dome. You know what I mean? Like, that's a big disagreement. And at least we don't have a large platform, but I at least want to make our people aware of that, because I see these unnecessary divisions all the time on Twitter. Like, people, they all anti-imperialists. They all support the dictatorship of the proletariat, but they will have one disagreement. All of a sudden, they never work with each other again.
Yeah.
And people wonder why the U.S. left is weak.
And let me point.
Go ahead, CJ. Go ahead.
Let me take the time to point this out, because you're saying, because people think, oh, they like to boast. I don't participate in the duopoly. I don't vote red or blue. Really? But what is your approach to politics? Do you go, oh, one thing I agree with, I don't agree with, 9 other things I do, fuck that guy? Do you do that? Because that's also conditioning from the duopoly. And I just wanted to make sure.
That's such a great point.
More than just 2 things. There's more than just voting red or blue. It's the approach.
That's such a great point. Because remember, when we talk about CIA tactics, I told you guys, it's not a good idea to accuse someone of being CIA. That tend to kill the conversation, and there's nowhere to really go from there. But if you're doing CIA tactics, as listed through the leak, as we explained many times before, that mean that you need to ask yourself that what that mean? Why are you doing CIA tactics even though you're not part of the CIA? I bring that up because that's a good point you make, CJ. Even if you're not part of the two-party duopoly, if you're doing two-party duopoly divisive shit, what's really the difference? Yeah, you don't vote Democrat. You don't vote Republican, but you are just as obsessed with dividing the working class as they are. And I know a lot of you guys are offline. I'm relatively online, I admit it. But there are a lot of communists online that do this shit. I see it, and it drives me crazy. Because that's why the U.S. left is weak. They don't do that in the global South. In the global South, a lot of leftists are very socially conservative. Do you think there's some leftists who are socially liberal that, like, oh, well, I'm not going to work with this Lula voter over here because he's a black evangelical, and I'm more liberal? That's not what they think. That liberal leftist in Brazil works with the black evangelical. They don't do this shit with the U.S. level. Like, oh my God, I can't believe you disagree on this one thing on Twitter. Anyway, I think I spoke on it enough. I want to make sure I read anything on that. All right, I think this is where I left off. Thank you for the $5, Kristen. Amtrak Joe railroaded the rail workers. He should be tarred and feathered. Jimmy got me fired up already, and it ain't even 1,700 Wildcats, right? Yeah, Jimmy, he started out this show really strong. We definitely appreciate it. And also, you said they should be tarred and feathered. A friendly reminder, I mentioned this before. During the 30s and 40s, when the unions were ran by a lot of communists, if you was caught being a scab, they often beat the shit out of you. And that stopped people from scabbing. Now, I know a lot of you people don't condone violence in any way, but hey, just saying. I
don't see that as violence. I see that as you protecting your livelihood. That's not violence. That's you protecting. Is more self-defense. Go ahead.
But I'm telling you, that was, and that's something they leave out. Like, that threat was a key element why the labor movement was successful. They was militant, and they was ready to punish workers who betrayed them. So that's why he said they should be tarred and feathered. Like, guys, like, we need to start. Anyway, we on YouTube. That conversation for Colin only. Like, Colin, I get a little more wild. But CJ, I talked to you before. I talk Central a lot because I'm like, YouTube will fuck us up one day. Thank you for the 499, Thomas. That's a solidarity super chat there. God bless. See, this is one super chat that's negative, but we read it. I super chat 5,000 if you kick this piece of shit off. Like, so this is the question I have. I won't be too long. And what did Jimmy say during any of these rants that upsetted you? That's the only question I have. Was it when he called it the Ukraine war? Was he called it when he called it the squad?
Something else. None of that.
When he showed solidarity with the workers, I was just asking, what part of these rants pissed you off, sir? That's why I don't get. Like, I legitimately don't understand people with Jimmy Dore derangement syndrome. What did I say, CJ? I have unapologetically Eric Adams derangement syndrome. I have Joe Biden derangement syndrome. People who have Jimmy Dore derangement syndrome, if you have any derangement over a podcast, you need to check. If you have a derangement over a podcast, you need to check your privilege straight up. There's these people on Twitter that do nothing but tweet about Jimmy Dore. That's all they do. And they don't even realize how much they expose themselves to us. Because us being poor black workers, right, being from members of disenfranchised communities, we look at these white privileged motherfuckers like Geoff and Jordan Cheriton. We see these people tweeting about Jimmy, like, is that your number one struggle right now, boo-boo? Jimmy Dore? You guys notice that? It's only the rich.
Elon Musk is it now. Yeah. Go ahead.
Now it's Elon. Yeah, they're Jimmy Dore tweets.
But now with this Matt Taibbi a Twitter files. Now we understand, because I did a stream, Nick, and I was like, I called it the assault on Elon Musk Twitter, and I was like, it doesn't make sense to me why everybody, the oligarch, I get he's an oligarch and all that, but why is it with MSNBC is saying the shit that I'm saying is saying the same shit? Why is that? Now we know. They knew this shit was gonna come out, Nick. They knew that Twitter was slanted to the left, to the liberals. I'm not gonna say left, to the liberals. They knew all this shit. That's why they were trying to tar him all these days since he had. I was like, why is this nigga still in the freaking news cycle every day? News cycle. Why? They were relentlessly going after him because they knew this was coming. They knew, not just necessarily like Matt Taibbi was, but they knew that he was going to let information out that they've been censoring bunches of people. But I didn't know it was to the extent, Nick. They literally would go, hey, socially MMA, hey, get that nigga out of here. They're literally sending random people's names, accounts to get taken off. That is crazy to me. We got to do a separate stream when we talk about that shit. That's freaking crazy.
Yeah, I didn't want to keep Jimmy too long, and I want to get CJ in, but I actually can break that. I cut a few things because
if you have a couple tweets,
so maybe next stream we gotta dive more.
Next stream.
By the way, there's gonna be another drop today. CJ, you know that was like part 1. I don't know how much you've been following it. That was part 1. They're gonna do this over the course of multiple days. So he said the next leak is gonna be about suppression. So this leak was more centered around Hunter Biden, how they made that decision on that. But he said the next leak, they're gonna talk about how they make decisions regarding who they suppress, which is very relevant to us. Because now I'm very interested in seeing because my account has been suppressed.
I didn't know. What did I bring up to you? I said, Nick, how the hell? I saw you had 82.5 and now you down at 81. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? What? And
I won't dive into it too much. I won't dive into it too much, but I remember, and a lot of people who follow me on Twitter saw my rise. I got like 82,000 followers. When I had 20,000 followers, I used to get 30 million tweet impressions every month. 30 million people would see my tweets every month. This is when I first hit the scene. I have literally 4 times more followers than that, and that impression number is down to 5 million. I went from getting 30 million views on my tweets to 5 million views on my tweets, despite me having more followers now than I did then. How does that make sense, guys? How does that make sense?
And another thing is the RBN Twitter. Have you noticed we've been sitting at 26,000 literally, or whatever, 28,000 for literally more than literally. And the thing is, we gain people because what I see is like 20 new people added, but the number doesn't, because they're taking people off and people don't know it. They're taking people, and we're literally been sitting. My account, Nick, I at least probably get like 10, 15 ads every single day. My account doesn't go up. My numbers don't go up 100 every couple of days. It doesn't, because they're taking people, and I just can't find who they're taking off. It is crazy what they're doing to us. Crazy.
So Nick and CJ on Monday, hell, we might even fucking do an episode tomorrow, depending what the leaks say. To be honest,
because that's true.
When you guys, for a second time, it literally took us like 45 minutes to read through all the leaks. Jimmy only had an hour. That's why I didn't go through all the tweets. Like maybe Nick and CJ on Monday, we're gonna really take it slow on this story and read through all of them for you guys. But what they said is they were taking a break to cover the suppression and the algorithm changed. That was obvious to everybody. I saw Breonna Joy Gray talk about it. Jamie talked about it. Like literally anyone who had a platform and was anti-establishment, it was a clear night and day difference. Like I literally saw my impressions get cut by over half. Like, and it was so obvious to me. But anyway, let's get some more super chats. We dive more because that leak is coming out tonight, CJ. It's coming out tonight. They're doing another one, and it's gonna. I cannot wait. And then they're gonna do another one on Sunday. So Nick and CJ on Monday is gonna be lit, guys. We're gonna have even more to talk about. So I will continue where I left off. I appreciate anyone who left some more super chats in. We may stay a little bit longer than I thought, CJ, but I appreciate all the support from you guys. I want to make sure I read all the super chats. I'm just doing a quick scan, make sure I didn't miss any new ones. I already started a new one just came in. All right, thank for the $20, Mike. There's solidarity super chat. We try our best. We try to get better every day. At least that's what I do. So thank you for the $20, Mike. Solidarity super chat from Ivy. Thanks for $2. This is our amazing comrade, Savvy Sabs.
What's
and this is why I literally interrupted you because I was so excited when I saw this. I'm like, wait, I literally saw this. I got so excited. So Savvy always coming through in the clutch. I know CJ, you put in an award in with Rome. God, we don't have massive influence, but man, we definitely trying to get the rail workers on. And apparently Savvy with the giant W, W. So she said, I got the road peeps contact. One of them will be on this week. Big W, Savvy. Big W.
So this is what this leave her tweet up. I mean, leave her comment up.
Yeah,
this is the reason why I always tell you, or I'm gonna begin to tell you, you have to watch RBN together. You have to watch Sabby channel, you got to watch our channel, and you got to watch Jay, because we're doing it as a collective group. So if you watch our anthology together, it's a complete story. So make sure you're watching Sabby's channel with this rail person, a railroad worker that she's gonna have. Now, hopefully, Nick, this can snowball into having 20 rail workers for a rail worker summit, because I'm down to do that shit on the fly. Like, hey, let's go. Like, y'all, let's bring them each on and have some sessions with them talking about really doing this. Reach out to Kellogg, bring them on. Hey, what do y'all think? How about we have a union summit? Bring on the Kellogg, bring on the nurses of Massachusetts, bring on railroad. Let's have a union summit so we can really start talking about shutting shit down and getting what we want. Go ahead.
And for those who missed the General Strike Summit, every single union organizer we had on, especially for my panels, I made it a point. I asked them about general strikes. We didn't ask one union organizer in our General Strike Summit about general strike, and they said, no, we good. That never happened. Every single time we asked one of these union guys about general strike, like, shit, actually, you the first. Remember that guy who said, you guys are the first person who actually asked me about that.
Yeah.
All the interviews I did. That's a great idea. Every single person. So imagine we get all these people. We get the rail workers to meet people in other industries as well, guys. Like, holy shit, that just got me so hyped. Man. I'll continue with the super chats. We're gonna be here all day at this point. Thank you for the 9.
Oh, I didn't realize we had so many. I didn't realize we had so many.
We appreciate the support. It was a banger, that's for sure. Like when Jimmy got started, I was just cracking up the whole time. Cause like, damn, that boy hold back. That's why they hate him, man. But thanks for the solidarity. It's another solidarity super chat from Salty Pretzel. Thank you for the 999. A lot of these super chats are literally just solidarity super chats, right? So we awesome. Appreciate it. I just want to make sure I give proper shout outs to everyone. Thank you for the 299. Jimmy and I'm sure that's Revolutionary Blackout, maybe. RBN, I mean.
Yeah, RBN.
The people, yeah. So that's solidarity there. Another solidarity super chat from Chuck. RBN, where the working class is welcome. Yeah, I told you guys before, I'm the most biased commentator in news. You know, some people a lot of people take pride and say, I'm non-biased. I am the channel you come to when you want to get balls and strikes. Nope. I am unapologetically advocating for one thing. That is dictatorship of the proletariat, the advancement of the workers in my community. You know what bias you're getting here. Anyway, let's continue on with these. But thank you, Chuck, for that. Thank you for the $5. 444 Sage. Will need to wake people up. Absolutely. This is a super sticker. Big shout out to my friend Lucy, Blue Moon, Red Wine. She'll be on the show a few times.
Yeah, I know Blue Moon. Yeah, I know Blue Moon, Red Wine.
Yeah, she does a lot of good organizing as well. So I saw you start a few of Savvy's comments.
Yeah, I just wanted to make sure we gave props to her.
Yeah, just big shout out to Savvy there. I see the last few super chats that I see. Thank you for the $2. I can't share a YouTube Shorts in the chat. I'm not sure the reference, but I appreciate the $2. $2 more for Jimmy Dore derangement syndrome. Yeah, I know. Like a lot of our audience is not on Twitter because I see some of you guys not on. Guys, if you're not on Twitter, dude, just Google Jimmy Dore on any day. Any day, just Google Jimmy Dore search bar and watch how many liberals are obsessed. That's their number one struggle. The Sam Cedar crowd, and it never fails. Like whenever I see someone who posts about Jimmy Dore all the time, I will check their page, and it's always a Sam Cedar retweet.
It's always.
Now, if you haven't done that, try it out. I promise you, it is like 95% of the time you see these people with Jimmy Dore derangement. You look on the page, they either follow Jank, follow Sam, they retweet Sam, they retweet Jank. It's the same. They are big and a Kasparian stan. It's the same thing. These people pretend that resisting Jimmy Dore is the number one practice of being a leftist. Their entire page is resisting Jimmy Dore. That's it.
But it speaks to why. I think it is like sort of confirms or is proof to what I was saying. Like he's not exactly, his audience is not exactly the Bernie coalition, but it's the closest thing as far as his audience, and I think that's why he's a target. Because there's other people that talk like him, but he's a target specifically of who he can grab and bring into his audience. They don't want to see conservatives, and they don't want to see left and right, middle, libertarian, Marxists all coming together under any working class banner. That's completely not going to be accepted.
Yeah, so we getting these super chats almost faster than I can read them, but we almost done. I just saw 3 more that came in. We appreciate all the support.
Let me start.
Thank you for the $2, Andre. Nick, please look what I sent you on Messenger. I check it out. I can't do it right now though. I'll check it out. Thank you for the $5. Oh yeah, thank you, Andre. By the way, thank you. I'll check that message out though. Thank you for the £5. I think that is. Get in contact with Eddie Dempsey and Mick Lynch at the RMC union here in UK. Anyone who's part of the union, anyone who's striking, it was literally. And I want you guys to say this as a community. If you're a striker, if you're a worker. And you want to share your story, you have an open invitation on RBN. And I want you guys to spread that. If you know a worker, hey, you got invite on RBN if you want to share your worker strike story. I promise you. That is what we do here.
Here's the email.
Oh wait, pull it back up. Pull it back up.
Sorry. revblacknetwork@gmail.com. We're gonna have our own where we pay for it. It's our name, not Gmail soon. But for right now, use this one. But our personalized, where we're not using Gmail anymore, is coming. But just stay tuned for that. But for right now, we're looking for rail workers, anybody in the union, and I forget what you said, Nick, but anybody that he was referring to, you can email us here. Make sure you put something in the subject line so that identifies what you're talking about.
I love all the solidarity super chats today. So I appreciate it. This is from Essen. It's from Turkey. Man, we love our international audience here, right? And I know how international our audience is, because whenever I read the super chats, I'm like, what fucking currency is that? So that happens all the time. So I'm glad that you watch from Turkey. And if you guys feel like it, leave a chat where you from. I think the community would be interested in seeing that in the chat. Also, we will be interested in the chat as well. Just because I love to see.
I'm interested. Yeah,
I'm personally interested. So
country or state or city, whatever. Tell us everything, and we'll put those up in just a moment. Go ahead.
Yeah. There's another solidarity super chat live those today. We appreciate it. This is a great RBN Saturday. Thank you, Reflect the Sun. I seen that name around, so Reflect the Sun, friend of the show. I've seen you leave a few solidarity super chats. Thank you for the 999 Big Cat's Corner. Please, yeah, we're gonna probably do this on Monday. Like Jimmy only had an hour, and I didn't want to have Jimmy on RBN with me just reading these tweets.
Yeah, we wanted to talk more.
So I just want to cover. I think I probably already went longer than I wanted to. I just want to cover the baseline and get Jimmy's response to it, because I'm sure you already saw it. But on Monday, expect a longer analysis, because
and plus he's going to have an analysis. We don't want to tip off his analysis too of each breakdown, because I'm sure he's going to do a breakdown for his show too. So, but yeah, we definitely have to go over that. What's up, Colin? Go, Colin.
Yeah, this is Colin, friend of the show. If we ever had Teacher Summit, there's literally no way
Teacher Summit, that would be a good idea, actually.
Yeah, I was about to say there's literally no way we would do. There's no way we would do a teacher summit without Colin. You know that, bro. You know that, bro. You know there's no way.
Well, he will be part of
will
actually
beat my
getting
ass.
people.
Sabby will kick our ass if we did an education summit without Colin. So that's definitely not gonna happen. That's a
Colin,
good idea,
that would probably happen after the union. Union is probably the next, and then we have to do a climate. So union and climate, and then that'll probably teacher or education maybe will be after that or something.
All right, so that was the last one, but I saw two more. Almost done. Like we've been getting these faster than I can read them. So I appreciate all the love today, guys. I'll read the last two here. Thank you for the $20. Been watching Jimmy Dore since early 2016 and managed to bring him and his crew to Sacramento in 2020. He's literally changed my life. Not that it's been all peaches and cream, being more enlightened. I definitely can relate to that, man. I was definitely a much more happier person when I didn't know all this shit I know. Like now I'm like, man, this is bullshit. I'm becoming old. But anyway, thank you for the super chat. And that's another point. Like, man, Jimmy gave a speech at the March for America for All. We had 5 members of RBN at that time who gave speeches for March for America for All. Meanwhile, I saw the boutique left smearing it, saying they like, oh my god, this is a march. They're gonna have right wingers in it. What? They're infiltrated by right. I don't know if you remember that, CJ. Because that one
vaguely, yeah,
because there was a right wing Nazi dude who infiltrated the group, and a lot of people didn't know him. Now, there's a lot of accounts about this. There are a lot of people that say that he was never booked in the first place. But let's go with the worst case scenario here. This right wing Nazi infiltrated the movement. Then the March for America for All learned of his background and immediately removed him. But after he was removed, you had the same boutique leftists. I'm talking about the anti-Kasparians, the majority report people. They were saying, oh, we can't support the March for America for All because they infiltrated by the right wing. Like, just lying in the most disgusting way possible. And you guys wonder why we go after those people, but we don't spend our time going after Jimmy Dore? Is Jimmy Dore lying about healthcare activists? No, that was Sam Cedar and TYT. Like, we know who our enemies are. It's not Jimmy Dore advocating for us to fund Nazis. It's not Jimmy Dore doing live stream that said the police need to be funded more. If he did, I promise you we will go after him. He's not. But anyway, let me continue. I already made that point. I thank you for the $5. And this is the last one I saw. I do one last glance before I pass it to you, CJ, for any last announcement. Sure. I think I see one more. I think I do. Well, this one just came in. Jesus Christ, guys. Appreciate the support. Thank you for the $1.99. RBN, my daily dose of realness. Yeah. I look at, like, man, I really like RBN been through many different iterations. We had different members and all this stuff. I think RBN right now, I think we're the most powerful we've ever been. Like the setup we have with JB, like JB and Sabby got their independent outside channels. Then me and CJ, we do our thing on Nick and CJ. And I love that Ron was on JB show on Sunday. And
he just drops in wherever.
Like this dynamic that we have right now is what I envisioned over like about 18 months ago when we started. So I love it. So I think that's the last one. I really don't. You guys know I don't skip people out of malice. There's another one. Damn, man. Thank you for $5, Nima. What do you make of Alemi teaming up with imperialists and DMC cheap herders? I'm not gonna get mad at Olayemi for doing that panel because she did exactly what I advocate for, having conversations with people who may disagree with her on something. So I don't blame Olayemi for that at all. But yeah, that panel was rough. We may do a breakdown on Monday. Maybe we may do a breakdown.
Let me just show my tweet. I did tweet about it, so I'll just show my tweet, Nick, real quick. Is this it? Yeah, here's my tweet. This is on the night of it.
That panel was rough, guys. I watched a little bit of it. Olayemi carried the entire thing. Every time any one of these other pasty motherfuckers said anything, you felt the energy die. Like these people are so lame. So David Doe and Mike, they used to doing these scripted shows, right? So they upload like a 10-minute clip, a 15-minute clip where they talk about their notes and what they have carefully planned out. But a live dynamic discussion like what we do on RBN all the time. Dude, these people are boring and milk tokens. They were making these lame jokes. I'm like, that's why you do pre-recorded. They can't think on the fly. If you guys curious, you guys see what I'm talking about. But man, Olayemi carried this damn show.
Man, that's
and
what my
everyone
tweet
here
said.
is as bad as you expect them to be. But go ahead, CJ.
Yeah, so I said 1/6 of the panel is great, and I was referring to Olayemi because literally, when she talked, they all were the audience too. And David barely said anything. The guy in the black shirt, black sweater in the middle there, I think he's from Majority Report. He's from the Majority Report in the middle here, and then the surf guy is the top right. So if you're ever thinking who's the surf person, that's him in the top right. But it was pretty bad. So I'll pass it back to you.
Olayemi will do like a long fire rant, and I only watched like 20-25 minutes. She did like a long fire rant, and then these pasty liberals had no idea how to follow up on it. Like she'll go off and she was speaking truth. They'll be like, well, actually, now to the news. Let's talk about the next thing. Meanwhile, you guys saw us on. We had Olayemi on, bro. That was some of our greatest conversation. We were chopping it with her. You can tell they was so uncomfortable with having Olayemi on there. At least that was my take from it.
Mine too.
And I implore you, don't. I saw people on Twitter going after her. No, I disagree with that. I strongly do. I like that.
Really? I thought really. Yeah. I didn't see that. Not because I didn't look. Not that I didn't see it. But
I wouldn't say. No, I don't want to pretend it was like a super mob, but I saw criticism, and I disagree with that. That's for the same reason why I believe that you should talk. Like if they invite me on, I'll go on there, blow their mind one time, they get pissed off, and I'll never see me again. I don't think that's a bad thing. But anyway, we have 3 more super chats, and I'm gonna cut off after these last 3 just for a sake of time. We can't be all that. So these be the last 3 super chats I'll read, and then I'll pass to you, CJ, for last announcements. Thank you for the $5. Libs hate Jimmy and RBN because we out. That's exactly what it is. This is only what it is. They're gonna pretend anything else is other. They're gonna make any other excuse to pretend it's not this. Notice that.
Yes.
Libs hate Jimmy and RBN because we outleft them and freed ourselves from the right-left tribalism. That is exactly what it is. And if they're gonna tell you it's about anything else. Oh, because it's Jimmy's take on COVID. It's because Jimmy said this. Because RBN. No, it's because we are not Democrats. That is literally what it is.
That's literally what it is.
Last 2 super chats. Thank you for 999. D-Bow the Black Panther. How about a trucker summit? Yeah, like let's bring the trucker on with the rail workers.
All of these are great. Yeah. All of these are great ideas. Yeah,
truck drivers with rail workers is game over for them establishment. Absolutely. And this is a friend of the show. I see his face all the time. So big shout out to D-Bow the Black Panther. Last super chat. Just locking out because I got to wrap soon. Thanks for the 999. Lisa, educate Jimmy on calling liberals woke. They are not. I think he understands the concept. I think sometimes he get a little lazy with the analysis, but I do think he understands. But maybe that'd be something we discuss next time.
No, he uses it. Well, in the times that I've heard him use it, he uses it in the way you use it, where you aren't using it as like a slur. You're literally using it as a description, as a title, like the NATO left, like AOC is a woke imperialist, meaning she is the one who is changing the word of woke, but she is an imperialist who's woke. So that is a description, not necessarily. It's just in a way you use it, I guess. But that's the way I've heard him. It could be other ways, but that's the way.
I gotta see this. I just saw the chat. I gotta see. I did not see that. Fiorella, great anti-imperialist reporter, friend of the show. She debated Matt Binder. I did not see that. Holy shit! I gotta watch that.
Who's Matt Binder again?
That Sam Cedar guy. I think he's
talking. Oh, that's him. Oh, that's his name. Okay.
And he was one of the tweets that I pulled up because he was one of the people that was like, "Oh my!" In the response to the Matt Taibbi leak, he was like, "Oh my god, why are you not going after Trump?"
What?
I'm not gonna find my tweet, but I had a tweet that did pretty well where I called him out. Well, I was like, the people, they take this evidence of corruption and they immediately make it a red-blue game. These people are propagandists of the highest order.
Everything.
Yeah. Like this, any story, they be like, oh, it is exposed to corruption in the Democratic Party, Hunter Biden, and their collusion with Twitter. And they was like, why don't you do it about Trump? That was Matt Binder's take on this corruption story. You see how the Sam Cedar Majority Report crew could Matt Binder literally work with them? You see how they take any story, and make it about the red-blue game. Not about worker struggle, not about resisting state power that come from capitalism. Nah, it's about red-blue game. Are you with the blue team or you're not? it's unbelievable that these people got away with calling themselves progressive for such
and it's so transparent too that you can.
But that's
see
all
it.
I have. I've been ranting. Like we went like an extra 45 minutes right here. But CJ, anything else you want to add?
No, that's
I don't want to cut this guy off. I see one more. Let's see. Let's play this. Let's see this last super chat here. Oh, this super sticker. Thank you for the solidarity, James.
Okay.
Start. Yeah, CJ. Any other thoughts? Anything else you want to share?
No. Unless there's a huge drop of like information, I probably will take a break. Make sure you support us on Patreon because we're really trying to move into the next level of RBN as far as community outreach and journalism. But we need your assistance. Let me toss this up here. This is our fundraiser. Oops, hold on a second here. This is our fundraiser. If you're able to contribute, there's our Venmo and our Cash App. We're trying to get cameras and sound equipment for us to report from the scene or in the field. Like Nick wants to do a lot of work with the KC Tenants Union. I want to do a lot of work with strikes because the state of California always has a lot of strikes going on. So, of course, you see strikes that's going on. I want to cover. Also, I want to cover a lot of what's happening in the unhoused community on Skid Row. So I want to cover that. So all of this stuff takes money. If you're able to contribute $1, $2 to either one, Cash App or Venmo, please do. If you want to contribute a different way, our Patreon is scrolling right there at the bottom. www.patreon.com/Rev Black Network, or you can just search Revolutionary Black Network on Patreon and we'll come right up. And there's a full Substack there scrolling at the bottom too. So that is it, Nick. All I had. I'll end with an outro video. You'll be back Monday along with Nick and CJ show unless something just really crazy, like if your name ends up in something in this report that Matt Taibbi reports, then we might do something tomorrow. But other than that,
so Monday expected a stream. Like I might not even play any other stories, to be honest. I literally might just have a slow reading, trying to get everyone caught up because there's going to be 2 more leaks before. There's going to be leaks tonight, and there's going to be leak on Sunday. So Monday we're gonna come here and we're gonna put all this shit together. That may be our only story. We see, but that's all I have. I see. I'll let you close it out.
Yes. All right. So let's go ahead and play our outro video, and it is. Is this it? Oops, that is not it. My bad. I opened up the wrong thing, but it's close enough. I can still click through from here. But anyway, here is our closing video. It's Michael Parenti, always coming with some great truths, and this is for the people, the proletariat.
Capitalism, as some of our more naive ecologists have argued for, is a contradiction in terms. The reason you invest is to accumulate. And your accumulation of capital has no purpose or meaning unless you can mix it with labor to yet increase your wealth further. And of course, you use large sums of it for personal consumption and for political power and for control of your culture and for that wonderful, good, happy life that you so like. Now, that nature of expansion really affects the nature. It's an important imperative because it means capitalism also can never stay home. It goes abroad. If you ever saw the film Controlling Interest, there's a corporate president who says, those corporations that stayed regional in New England years ago and decided not to go national, we can't even remember their names. They died. We had to go national. And those of us who are now national know we have to go international. We have to invest abroad. So one of the laws of capitalist motion and development is this inexorable expansion. And that means expansion into an expropriation of the third world. A process that's been going on for about 400 years, perpetrated by the Portuguese, the Spaniards, the Dutch, the Belgians, the French, the English, and most recently, most successfully, most impressively, by the Americans. That is by the ruling classes of these countries, not by the ordinary people. The ordinary people simply paid the costs of empire. The ordinary people simply sent their sons off to die on the plains of India or in the jungles of the Congo or in Latin America, wherever else. But that expropriation of the third world that's been going on for 400 years brings us to another revelation, namely that the third world is not poor. You don't go to poor countries to make money. There are very few poor countries in this world. Most countries are rich. The Philippines are rich. Brazil is rich. Mexico is rich. Chile is rich.
And they all were fine with him. So then we have to ask ourselves the question, then what's different now? If he's, like somebody said in the comments, he's saying the same thing he's been saying for years. If he's saying the same thing, what has changed? Either TYT has changed or the target. Isn't his target the same? Democrats and Republicans? Isn't his target squarely on Democrats when they're in power? Squarely on these so-called progressives? So who has changed? Has Jimmy changed? Or has there been another influence that changed the people around Jimmy at that time? You get what I'm saying? If we're here, like all of them are here, and we're progressing left, what something anchors them here as he's still progressing left? Is that, or progressing? It doesn't have to be left. I just mean moving. But what made this break off? What kept people, I'm not going to phrase it that way. Okay, so let's see. Let me see what else I have here in my notes. Let's read the next part. Here. I'm going to come back sort of to that. So the last question I ask is it because of it? Why do they hate him? Is it because it is his in-your-face, prickly, Chicago-like demeanor? And I would say now the answer to that question is no. This video is saying, no, that's not it. That's what this video is saying to me. He's the same. He is screaming a slight notch above than what he does now. So then let's move to the next part, which is, because what do we say here with Nick? We could do it either way. So let's go with what they're saying. Let's say it's abrasive, is bad, and all the things saying. And that's what they're saying. I have a video where they're specifically talking about the way he argues, and we're going to cover that one too. But does his demeanor burn bridges? Does the way he interacts burn bridges? Now, they would say yes. So again, we're going with their thinking. So yes, it burns bridges. My next question will be, bridges to where? Bridges to where? This is what I wrote down. Does Jimmy Dore's demeanor burn bridges? Question mark. What bridge to who is being burnt? Because that's key. Because what if we're on some sort of military mission, and not even a military mission, let's say some body who wants to get us is trying to, the ruling class are trying to get us in a revolution. We're in the jungles. And they're on the other side. And the only thing one thing we can stop them from chasing us, we can burn this bridge. Isn't that a good bridge to burn? Isn't that a good big bridge to burn? So I'm going to put that out there in this conversation, because there are some bridges that are good that we should be burning. Specifically, RBN believes one bridge that we should be definitely burning, this is the bridge to the Democratic Party. So when we're talking about he's burning bridges, that has to be the framing, the lens. Bridge to where? see, where was I? Okay, right here. Is the bridge that is being burnt a bridge to the Democratic Party? Yes or no? Is the bridge being burned a bridge to the media that supports the Democratic Party? Meaning, like, I'm burning a bridge between another media person, but that media person tells people to go and support the Democratic Party. You see, it's by way through this media person, it's the same thing. Back to the Democratic Party. So let's go to the next part is it burning bridges to, oh, I answered this question already. There are bridges that we do want to burn, and specifically any bridge to the Democratic Party. So ask yourself, so now let me go to this question. Burning bridges.